Hey, what's up, everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. Today we are doing a discography ranking, and we're going to be talking about My Dying Bride. This is a ranking that I've been wanting to do for quite some time, but I kept putting it off, mostly because I knew it would be very tough to listen to all these albums in a row. It would be very emotionally weighted on me to listen to all these albums in, like, say, a 2 or 3 week span. So I've been putting it off because I don't necessarily want to be that full of despair all the time. It's a band that I listen to here and there, but listening to all their albums in a row I knew would be quite a bit, but I have finally done it, and I've got my ranking ready for you here today. So if you're unfamiliar with this band, legends from the UK, one of the pioneers in the doom death, gothic doom sub-genre, really known for their vocalist Aaron Stairthorpe's very unique and pained vocals. It's really stand out. He's got a very good harsh vocal, but then his cleans are what really make the band stand out. It's just a really sorrowful croon, if you will, that really just brings you down and is gonna make you feel sad, but it suits this music so well. They've put out such beautiful music. Yes, it's full of sorrow, but that's what you're in store for, and that's what you're looking for when you listen to a band that's called My Dying Bride. So they've got 15 full lengths. I'm going to rank them from my least favorite all the way up to my favorite. I will say, out of these 15 albums, there's a couple that I don't really like at all, that I pretty much never go back to. Then there's a handful that I think are mediocre, and then there's a nice chunk that are very good, and those are the ones that I find myself returning to on the regular. But let's find out what those are, and as usual, I want to get your opinions down below. Let me know what your favorites are. Let me know what you thought of my ranking. If you think I'm completely off base, that's totally okay. These are just my opinions, but here we go. So, coming in 15th, my least favorite My Dying Bride album is Evinta from 2011. So I was not really sure if I should even include this in the discography ranking. Yes, it is categorized as a full length, at least on Metal Archives. But is this a true full length My Dying Bride album? Really, this is just symphonic reworkings of older melodies from their back catalog. It's not really for me. I pretty much never listened to this one. I gave it another shot here, but my opinion hasn't changed. It's just not for me. Maybe some of you out there really dig this one because of how unique it is, but for me it was a very easy choice to put this one in last. I'm not even going to pick favorite songs. I just don't really like this one at all, and that's why I've got it in last place. Up next in 14th, 34.788% complete from 1998. So this one is kind of an oddball in their discography. It really brought in an electronica influence. They were trying some different things out, and I applaud them for the experimentation, but I just find this album pretty uneven. It's not really my cup of tea. Another one that I almost never listen to. There's still a couple decent moments here, but there's just too much inconsistency in the songwriting department on this album. It's just not really another one that I enjoy too much. If I had to pick a favorite song here, The Whore, the Cook, and the Mother is a pretty decent track here, but all in all, these are the two albums that I just mentioned that I pretty much never go back to. If I'm in a My Dying Bride mood, it's certainly not going to be either one of those albums. Okay, so now let's get into some better stuff. These next few albums I'm talking about, I think, are mediocre. They're not necessarily on par with their best, but it's a lot better than the first two albums that I just mentioned. So, in 13th place, I'm going to 2009 with the album For Lies I Sire. So while it's much better than the first two albums that I just mentioned, I still find this one a little bit flat, definitely not as strong as their best material. It just sounds a little uninspired and, dare I say, boring as I listened to this album. The violin made a return on this album where it had been missing on the few albums that preceded it, but it's just not enough to save this album from mediocrity. I just don't think this one is a real standout in their discography. Still some okay moments, like My Body, A Funeral is a very good song, but all in all, just a very mediocre album, at least in my opinion. Up next in 12th, going to 2020 with The Ghost of Orion. So at this point, there was a ton of turmoil going on in the band. They were going through some personal struggles. So honestly, it was an achievement for them just to release this album. And it makes sense that maybe it didn't have their strongest songwriting because their focus was elsewhere. And that makes sense. It was still nice to get the album. I will say, compared to lots of their discography, this one's pretty straightforward doom metal, if you will. But once again, it's just a little bit dull, a little bit mediocre compared to the best stuff that they can write. I wouldn't put this on par with that at all, but there's still some standout moments, like Your Broken Shore is a great song, but all in all, another one that I'm not a huge fan of, but I think it's okay. Up next in 11th, going to 2006 with A Line of Deathless Kings. So compared to the few albums that came before it, which I haven't talked about yet, I feel like this one's not quite as strong as that, but it's still decent. We're starting to get into better stuff here where I don't mind listening to these albums and I actually go back to them from time to time. This album is mostly clean vocals, and there are still some standout tracks, like To Remain Tombless is for sure a standout here. So like I said, we're starting to get into the better stuff now. We're not at their best. This is getting a little bit better than all the other albums that I've already talked about, but let's keep this going and get into even better stuff. So now we're going to get into the top 10, my 10 favorite My Dying Bride albums, kicking it off in 10th place from 1996, Like Gods of the Sun. So this one is all clean vocals, and I find it has a major like Black Sabbath vibe to it, albeit with that My Dying Bride gothic touch. Over the course of their whole career, this is easily their most accessible album, maybe the most easy listening My Dying Bride ever sounded, if you will. It's got some great moments, but once again, still a few inconsistencies. They would do some better albums, but there are some absolute standouts here. For You, A Kiss to Remember. All in all, a very decent album, albeit not on par with their absolute best. Up next in 9th, going to 2012 with A Map of All Our Failures. So this was a nice comeback, at least in my opinion, after a few albums that were pretty mediocre. This one was somewhat of a return to their roots, maybe not quite in the category of like their best material yet, but this one still saw them return to their original sound and was a step in the right direction for sure. The song The Poorest Waltz is a standout here, and all in all, yeah, we're getting into the better material now. Let's find out what the next one is. In 8th place, I'm going to their newest one, which was from last year, A Mortal Binding from 2024. So compared to the album that was right before it, The Ghost of Orion, this one is a lot more exciting, at least to me. It's got a really nice balance of the heaviness and the softer moments. It seems like at this point, this might be the last album they ever do. They've got some conflicts going on in the band now. And if that is the case, this was a very fitting end to their discography and to their career, because it's full of great tracks like Thornwick Hymn, the second of 3 Bells. All in all, a very good doom record. That was in 8th place. Now we're getting into the top 7, and honestly, this is kind of the point in my list where I'd say these next 7 are the My Dying Bride albums that I go back to on the regular. The other ones that I just mentioned, some of them that I said are mediocre, I might listen to here and there, but these next 7 are all very, very good albums where this is where my ranking got really tough, where I had a hard time picking which order these should go in, because all 7 of these are top-notch stuff. So if you're unfamiliar with the band, go check out any of these next 7 albums, and I feel like you won't be disappointed. Okay, so for today, in 7th place, I'm going with Songs of Darkness, Words of Light from 2004. So this album is a very heavy on the atmosphere. It's a very bleak sounding record. It's got a lot of spoken word on here that's very prominent throughout, which maybe is why I put it 7th, because maybe they lean on that a little bit too much on here. But that being said, there are some absolute standout moments here. Catherine Blake, how good is that song? Like, come on, that is an amazing song. The Wreckage of My Flesh is great as well. All in all, a very solid album. If you had this higher than 7th, I completely understand. It's a great album. But let's get into stuff that I think might be even better. So up next, in 6th, I'm going to 1999 with The Light at the End of the World. So this album was a triumphant return to form after a couple albums where it was mostly clean vocals. The harsh vocals really returned here after a string of albums without them, and it really went back to that style that I really enjoy, where they have that nice balance of harshness and heaviness with those softer gothic melancholic moments as well. And this one is just an absolutely solid album, great addition to their discography. She is the Dark, one of their all-time best songs for sure. Eden Beast is great as well. Just missed out on my top 5, but any given day it could be in there. But now let's see what I've got in my top 5, my 5 favorite My Dying Bride albums. In 5th place, going to 2015 with Feel the Misery. So out of their later day era, if you will, this is easily my favorite. Like from the last 10-15 years, it just is the best thing that they put out in that time period, at least to me. I loved this album when it came out, and I still do. The songwriting was just way more consistent than the albums from this era. Just a more solid album than they had put out in a while. It's just full of great doom riffing. Like, the riffing really stands out on this album, and some of the songs are really catchy. Like the title track, Feel the Misery, you will be singing along to that. And My Father Left Forever is possibly my favorite track on the album. All in all, an easy choice to be in my top 5 because it's a very stellar album. Up next in 4th, I'm going all the way back to their debut from 1992 as The Flower Withers. So here, when they came out of the gates, there was no clean vocals here. This wasn't the My Dying Bride sound that you would come to expect later in their career. This is very heavy and aggressive, slow death metal, if you will. There's still a few faster paced parts as well, but this is just crushing and probably the most angry that they've ever sounded. A very great start to their career. They would shift direction after this, but what a debut. Songs like Sear Me, The Return of the Beautiful, all in all, an absolutely crushing debut. Easy choice for my top 5. Up next in 3rd, we're going to go to 1995 with The Angel and the Dark River. So this being their 3rd album, once again, they really shifted styles here. All clean vocals on this album, no harsh vocals. They abandoned those growls, but the clean vocals really suit these songs way better. This is where he really started to develop his trademark croon, if you will. It's just a really sad and depressing album that really sets the mood and atmosphere of these sorrowful songs. The Cry of Mankind, possibly my favorite My Dying Bride song. It would be in the running anyway, just top tier stuff. Two Winters Only, such a goddamn great album. That's why it's in 3rd place. What do I have even better than that? Because that's one of their best, but we still got 2 more to go. Let's find out what those are. In 2nd place, I'm going to go to 2001 with The Dreadful Hours. So to me, this is an excellent album. One of their absolute best. It's got that great mix of heaviness and melancholy, and even got a little bit more progressive with their sound on this one. If I go back to my teenage years, this was actually one of the first full lengths I heard by My Dying Bride. I had heard a few songs here and there, but this was one of the first albums by them that I owned, possibly even the first one that I owned, if I'm not mistaken. It's hard to remember back then, but it has stuck with me ever since then. This album just starts with such a punch with the title track, one of my favorite songs by them ever. Following that up with The Raven and the Rose, another just great song. But really start to finish, this album just absolutely kicks ass. Maybe not everyone would have this high on their list, but it has stood the test of time for me, and it's the album that really got me into the band, and that's why I have it this high. It still holds up to this day. But that just leaves one. Probably no surprise here what my favorite album is. I'm going back to 1993 to their sophomore album, Turn Loose the Swans. Absolute classic in the genre for a reason. To me, this is the start of their real identity. Yes, the debut was excellent, but this started bringing in some clean vocals and really further developed their sound here. You've got the harsh vocals, but then those gothic, sad, clean vocals as well. And yeah, this is just an absolute triumph. Like, this is just insanely good. It's got this cinematic quality to it with this sweeping sense of melancholy throughout the whole album. It's just top notch for the genre, for the style. Songs like Your River, one of my favorites by them for sure. The Crown of Sympathy. Really, this whole album does not miss a beat. No weak moments here. Love it. That's why it's my number 1. And like I said, I would like to get your picks down below. Let me know what your favorites are. You don't necessarily have to give me a ranking of all 15, but if you want to, I will gladly read that. I always like to hear others' opinions. Let me know what your favorites are, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you haven't checked out My Dying Bride before, now is the time. So, until next time, Hammerheart Metal Reviews, out.